Well, good morning. And before we get to Tony and her, what I know will be a wonderful, inspiring talk today, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about two things. One, I can't believe that this is the last time we're together in March, and all of a sudden now it's April. But April is always kind of a lighter, it's like we're breaking out of winter. I know we didn't have a winter, but what the heck, let's break out of it anyway. Um, the nice thing about April is that next week, April 2nd, we're going to be in person at Celine and Jean's again with a wonderful, beautiful Taizé service, which we haven't done in a while. So April is now the beginning of us coming back to meeting more in person. As you've heard, starting April 9th, which is Easter Sunday, we will be the first time at B'nai Cachette, 99 South Fulton Ave in Montclair. We were there the other day. Clyde was there with me and Ty checking out the acoustics. It's an absolutely gorgeous facility. I mean, it's beautiful. And so we're going to start meeting then. We're going to be on the 9th and I think the 16th and the 20th and the 30th. I'm not sure. The dates, please check. They're on the newsletter and everything and on the website as well. But this is very exciting. It's so good to be back in person, just like it was so good to be back in person for the retreat. And I just want to relay to everybody that those who were at the retreat, you know how wonderful it was. You know how refreshing it was. It was just so phenomenal to be in each other's company and get inspired and go through all the different meditations and treatments. And I got to tell you, I will get to those musicians in a minute. Don't worry, because I'm going to tell you about them. But I had brought up a quote while I was at the retreat, and I finally found out what the real quote was, and that was from Abraham Lincoln, who said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe, and I would spend the last 2 chopping down the tree. That retreat was the 4-hour span of sharpening my axe for sure, to really being to get myself re-inspired, re-energized. It was just such a wonderful thing to do. So if you weren't able to make it, make the next one. We're going to do more of them because, for those who were there, they were dancing. The music was incredible. Clive, Ty, Ray, it was just, let's give them all a hand here. Just, it was phenomenal. They wrote special songs for it. We actually wrote a parody about the retreat Sunday morning that they played, which was phenomenal. So I just want to thank everybody who participated, because everybody who was there brought something wonderful to the experience. And I just wanted to say that. So Tony, I'll turn it over to you.
Can I just comment on the retreat?
Absolutely.
Listen, I've been in this teaching a while. You all know that. Since the late 70s. And the truth is, when it comes to retreats and meetings and conferences, I'm pretty jaded. I honestly, lots of times I feel like been there, done that, heard it all, And every once in a while, if I hear that something is really special, I might check it out. And so I went to this retreat hoping that it was going to be nice. No disrespect to anyone, I'm telling you the truth, okay? And me personally, I was in a bad space when I went. I was not in a good place. I even got up and said that I felt like I had a hole in the middle of my body. Okay? Real unusual for me. Something got triggered. Okay? Let me tell you something. I am so grateful that I went to this retreat. I am so grateful for the experience that I had. It was one of those times, I'm going to talk a little bit about synchronicity today. It was one of those times where everything came together. Spirit was so full, so creative. The musicians were absolutely amazing. They held the space. They created a space of love, of peace, of wholeness. This retreat, true to its name, we were just wrapped in love. We were literally just wrapped in love. I'm telling you, it was a wonderful experience. And I got to tell you that the people there contributed to that. It was the right people in the right place at the right time. And so I invite you, when there's a retreat, when there's something going on, I invite you not just to come, but to show up with an intention. My intention when I went was for healing. I can't tell you what anybody else's was, but I can tell you when I left on Sunday, that hole in my chest was gone. And so I just really wanted to share that with you because it was a powerful, beautiful experience.
Yeah, Tony, I just want to add before you get to your talk that Michelle and I made it a point of even taking pictures of people when they arrived. Of course, I took pictures of everybody at the end when the song parody was being played and everybody was dancing like crazy. But you're not the only one who showed up with a hole like that, that you could see, as some people literally were getting out of their cars, that you could tell that there was something that needed to be let go of this weekend. And the multiple people experienced exactly what you're talking about. And that's, even for the people that didn't walk in with a big hole, they walked away feeling a heck of a lot better. But, thank you for mentioning that, because that's really true.
Okay, so our monthly theme is cultivating authenticity. And our topic today is no approval needed. Now, I got to tell you, I got really excited when I read the topic for today. I I just resonated with it. It raised my energy. I literally had a visceral response to it, like heard angels singing freedom. I just was like, wow, I can talk about this. I can talk about this. I wonder, I'm just asking, when you hear the talk topics, when you heard this one or any talk topics, when you read them, do you ever have any response? How does it land on you? Just curious because of the reaction that I had. But we're going to explore this today. So, the theme cultivating authenticity is powerful within itself. I want to read a quote to you from Brene Brown. Brene Brown said, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. I love the choice of the word embracing because it conjures up self love, self acceptance, self care, affection, and valuing oneself. And the juxtaposition of who we think we are in our humanness and who we truly are as spiritual beings made in the image and likeness of God. That juxtaposition is sometimes mind boggling. Okay, maybe not for you, I'll speak for myself. It has been mind boggling for me and something I've really struggled with. We can run the gamut of human experiences and not necessarily be able to understand why we resist being authentic. There are a bunch of reasons. I'm going to give you the bottom line reasons for me not wanting to be vulnerable: fear, fear of rejection, fear of ridicule, not being accepted, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being embarrassed, of not feeling safe, and as is the reality, unfortunately, for some people, actually really not being safe if you are authentic and honest and open. So, in thinking about this, I realized that we learn to seek approval as children. Our parents reward us for things like learning how to use the potty, using manners, eating with a spoon, saying please and thank you, covering our mouths when we cough, when we sneeze. If you could think of the number of times that the little one does something and the parents are clapping and yay, it's one of the first things the little kids learn, that yay, and then they take it and run with it. But it is the basis of our relationship with needing approval. As teens just feel the need to belong. They feel the need to be part of the crowd. And as adults, we need to fit in too. We need to find our tribe, a safe space that we can function and reach our goals. So I think that seeking approval becomes very unconscious, that it's not a conscious thing. We don't go around saying to ourselves, I'm looking for approval. Um, but we are aware of the discomfort when we feel rejected, when we don't feel heard, when we're criticized or when we're ridiculed, or when we don't feel like we belong, when we feel like we're not a part of something. This is a powerful, powerful need. And I think that the need for approval is tied to the need to belong and the need to feel loved. The thing is that we often lack the knowledge, we often lack the awareness, the tools that allow us to make the transition, a full transition, from being a child that needs our parents' approval to an adult, from being dependent to being independent, from being reliant to being autonomous. And as we often speak of in our teaching, from duality to oneness, because that allows us to be more comfortable being who we are. Unfortunately, right now, we live in a world that is, for the most part, entrenched in, polarized by duality. There's a line from a song that I used to listen to over and over again when I was young. I resonated with it, but I didn't quite understand what it meant except for the literal translation. And I'm just going to share a line with you. It's an old Rufus tune. Shaka Khan sang it. And it was written by Dennis Belfield. I always like to give credit to songwriters and composers. The song says, I used to be locked in a closet and I couldn't find the key. I still have an emotional reaction to that. It used to be you look my way, but not see me. For me, personally, this teaching was the key for me to unlock that closet door and find my freedom. Of course, I'm still in process. It's a lifelong thing, but this teaching was the key for me. Because when we don't know how to do something, when we can't figure something out, when we want to accomplish something or be something or have something, and we don't have the answers and the tools, we feel alone. We feel lost. And what we then do is we look outside of ourselves for answers, unaware that the presence and the answer to everything is within. So, then how do we learn to love and honor and trust ourselves? How do we find the strength and the courage and the conviction to follow and listen to the beat of our own drum? to be comfortable saying what we really think and feel, and to do what we honestly want to do. And I never want to talk about these things without acknowledging that for some people this can be dangerous. For some people in this world, doing that is not a safe thing. Not in our minds, but in reality. So if I want to be myself and not be swayed by someone else, or what society is telling me I should or cannot do, then I have to have an incredible sense of self and connection to spirit in order to be able to do that. Unfortunately, separation is the order of the day right now in our society. And in an effort to enforce inclusion, we're under such pressure these days to be politically correct. And in my opinion, it's creating tremendous dishonesty. It is literally siphoning away our ability to disagree or to have a different opinion. And there is a real division that is being created on narratives with little gray area in between. It's not based on the awareness that we are all expressions of the divine and we are all one. I'm speaking in generalities. I want to read a quote for you, an Ernest Holmes quote from This Thing Called You. It's on page 3. It says, "You belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius back of this vast array of ceaseless motion, this original flow of life." That sounds so beautiful and so powerful, but in order for it to have any meaning and value for us, in order for us to be able to utilize it and benefit from it, it can't just be intellectual. We can grasp the concept intellectually, but in order for us to really use it, it has to be tangible. We have to have an experience of it and be able to put it into practical application in our lives. I'm not saying anything new to you. You hear this in a myriad of ways in this teaching, day in and day out, over and over again. This is the teaching. Our teaching was originally called Science of Mind. Why? Because it's a way of using spiritual laws that allow us to test and prove the application of these laws and get results or not. At the retreat, somebody mentioned a talk that I did some time ago about having a personal relationship with spirit. In our teaching, we believe that the presence, God, good, love, whatever you want to call it, is all there is. It's everywhere, evenly present, is all there is, and it is within us. But making the transition from years of believing that God is an authority, being separate from us somewhere outside, up there in heaven somewhere, is a difficult transition if we're really honest. And the truth is, many of us have yet to fully make that transition, myself included. But when we do our inner work on a consistent basis, when we use our spiritual practices, something begins to happen. We begin to notice synchronicities and demonstrations. We begin to gradually have more clarity and more success. We begin to collect evidence and experience being connected, being in that flow. Things begin to work out for us. We develop and deepen our relationship with the presence based on our personal experience of using the teaching, of using the law. We can test and prove this teaching when we do the inner work. And so we go from wishing and hoping to knowing and believing. It's one of the reasons that you hear me on Sundays lots of times talk about and mention synchronicities. Those times when things and conditions and people come together and everything is in alignment and flows beautifully without any prior communication or arrangements being made. That's spirit. And so when we know, when we have an experience of the presence, we feel safer and we move differently in the world. Instead of creating a dividing line because we disagree, we could actually agree to disagree and still get along and be there for ourselves, honor ourselves and each other. There can be mutual respect and kindness even when you disagree with someone. Unfortunately, as a society right now, we seem to be losing tolerance. Even families have been divided in the past few years over things that are going on in the world. But when we live from a place of knowing that the power and presence is within each of us, that each of us is a divine expression, love and kindness lead. And we have very different results. When we don't, though, it can require tremendous courage and wisdom to be our true selves. When I live from a place of being true to myself, when I live in my truth, though, I'm empowered and often wholly, fully successful. But it requires an awareness of and a connection to spirit. It requires that we do our inner work, that we listen to divine guidance, that we seek out truth, and that we're really honest with ourselves and have the courage to trust in spirit. Then there are no approvals needed except from ourselves and the presence, that thing itself within. Then you have carte blanche. Then the universe conspires in your favor, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it in the beginning and it doesn't feel good. When you experience a lack of approval from others or you're ridiculed or questioned by others. But the truth is that most people who created big contributions to this world did not have the approval of others, and they were very often made fun of. The one thing they had in common was they followed their guidance. They followed their hunches. They may or may not have known, but what they did was they opened themselves to the presence regardless of what they believed, and they allowed it to flow through them, and they became co-creators. I think the person that was most ridiculed that comes to mind for me first was Tesla. And now, after he's gone, people are capitalizing off of his inventions and his wisdom. The Wright brothers, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Marie Van Brittan Brown, George Washington Carver, the abolitionists, the civil rights activists, the gay rights activists, the women's suffrage activists, they all went against the grain and what society said was possible or okay. So Brene Brown has a clip on YouTube. You can go and check it out. In this clip, she's talking about Maya Angelou and how Maya Angelou was her counselor and how she was deeply impacted by Maya Angelou's work. Except she said she was very disturbed by something that Maya said. She said it really pissed her off because it went against what she knew. Maya said that you're free when you belong nowhere. Belonging everywhere, which is really nowhere, is what sets us free. Brene Brown said that the one thing that she knows for sure is that in the absence of love and belonging, there is always suffering. So this really troubled her. But then she said she started looking at what it means to belong. She did what? She went within, right? And she said what she found is that true belonging is a spiritual practice. And it's about the ability to find sacredness and both being a part of something, but also the courage to stand alone. And she said, for those of us who struggle to have the courage to stand alone, especially when we're risking that sense of being a part of something because we disagree, because we have a different opinion, because we love something different, that is the mark, she said. That's the mark of true belonging. To be able to say, yes, I'm a part of something bigger, but I will also stand alone when I need to. You belong everywhere and nowhere. And that, she says, is liberation. You have often heard me talk about Richard Bach. He's one of my favorite authors. He wrote Illusions. He wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And I couldn't do this talk without mentioning Jonathan Livingston Seagull. That book, I was being fired from a job when I was very young. It was actually my first job, a job I never should have been in, or so I thought. Thank goodness I already had another job because I felt that this was not going well. Okay. And I already had another job. But as I was leaving, I'm trying to be candid about this. As I was leaving, someone said to me, Toni, have you ever read Jonathan Livingston Seagull? And I said, no. She said, I think you should. I think it will help you understand some things. So I didn't go get the book right away. I was starting a new job and, busy. And I was waltzing around one Saturday morning and there were books outside in the city. And that book was in this bin. And I picked up that book. The woman was really, really trying to help me. So Jonathan Livingston Seagull was a seagull who was bored with life. He was upset by the fighting and bickering that went on with the fish fighting over food, trying to survive and hurting each other. And he had a passion for flying. He wanted to fly fast and he liked to do these aerial stunts. And he just did not want to be limited in any way. The reason I got into this teaching. But since he was different and since he didn't act like everyone else, he became an outcast. He was casted out from his flock, from his tribe, but he continues alone. He continues to do his thing, exploring the possibilities of flight. And of course, he has realizations, he grows, he has these great experiences, he improves, he flies faster than any seagull that he knows of. And in the process, he meets teachers and he evolves. I don't want to tell you the whole story, but if you want some inspiration and if you want some examples of being authentic and how spirit supports you when you are, I highly recommend that you read the book. Get the complete edition because he added onto the story. So in closing, I want to offer a quote again from our founder, Ernest Holmes. The book, This Thing Called You, on page 5.2. There is something within you beyond all doubt and fear, something which has never been limited by your acts or destroyed by your feelings. This is the only something that can make you whole. No approval needed. I am an expression of the divine. Let's take this into treatment. And so what I know is that this divine presence is absolutely love. What I know and affirm is that I cannot be caught off from this love except by my own ignorance. And even then, I am in the midst of love. What I affirm is that this love provides for me, it guides me, it empowers me, and gives me everything that I require to be who I am, the full, complete expression of who I was uniquely created to be. This love supports me, it guides me, it upholds me, it moves me, it allows me to unfold moment by moment as my highest and best. And so I listen. I listen to that voice and I open myself to that idea within myself, knowing that I am divinely guided. I am divinely supported, that there's nothing too big or too small for the power and presence that I call God, knowing that a way is made out of no way, that I co-create with this incredible, divine, infinite, unlimited presence. And there are no limits. There are no limits. I am wrapped in, I am immersed in, I am fed by this incredible fountain of life called love. And knowing that this is the truth, I am so grateful. I am so empowered by this knowing. I am so thankful. And I say yes to it as the presence says yes to me. And so I know that I can do what I choose to do. I can live my life and unfold the things I choose to experience because I know who I am. And so now I simply release this word into the law and give thanks. Please close with me. And so it is.
So it is.